Hello. Mike Israetel is wrong, and there's a lot of people who don't like him. It seems to be very popular to dislike him, and there's people who think he's wrong for all kinds of things, but in this case he's definitely wrong. He's wrong about balls, he's wrong about these, and I know them as a Powerball, and other people call them a Gyroball, and they're pretty well-known exercise implements. Let's have a quick look at them. Just a few days ago, Mike Israetel on his Ordinary channel had a video where he looked at exercise devices that are useless or pretty poor, quite absurd, and he included these. I know them as Powerballs, and I think that's mostly British, and in America you tend to sell them as Gyroballs. I've actually got a friend who I saw, he's in his 40s, and he mentioned that his dad used to have these when he was young. So they've been around for a very long time. I'm sure you can find all of that. They're not uncommon. Wikipedia's probably got a large section on them. I thought you should say it's got a gyro inside, but apparently it still is a gyroscope, even though you're not using it as a tool for looking at things, such as with the gyroscope. And you have more modern versions of those in electronic devices. They're quite common. I believe you'd use them for missile navigation, things like that. And the essence of it is that you've got one spinning disc on one axis, and that stays with the same alignment no matter what happens to the housing, and the rest of the housing to which is attached with another two axes. I'm a little bit confused about these because, let's see if you can see close up. This is a nearly complete sphere, and this you can see spinning quite well, but you can't see it moving in another plane on another axis. I think it's because this has to go at sufficient speed to unlock something in here, which then allows it to spin this way. I don't understand what allows it to spin in a third axis. I think it does. I could be wrong. I can't find out that much information about this element of them. Have a quick look at this diagram, which will show you how they're constructed. One thing that's important to note, and they always say when you buy them, is you mustn't lubricate it, and that's because a certain amount of friction in the plastic is essential for it to function. And apparently if you spray this with a little bit of lubricant, then that's it, it won't work anymore. They're very good for general hand fitness and exercise and mobility. In particular, I had an accident with a power drill a few years ago when I banged this into the wall really hard, and it's still not quite right. And I have poor mobility to this side of the wrist, and I found it helped with that. You find physiotherapists will recommend them. They're pretty commonly known. That's why I wonder if Mike Israetel was actually having a bit of a joke, seeing if he could alarm some people. I don't know. Some people immediately in the replies said this is what it is, and that they discussed it. And what's somewhat surprising is he talked about other exercise devices in this video that seem almost useless. At most they're a little bit of fun. They're a light way to exercise. I think you'd be better jogging on the spot, shadow boxing. There are various things you can do with no equipment that are better than these things. But some of them, he said, not so bad. This has some use to it. And this one, they just laughed at, dismissed it, said, does it have batteries in it or something? And they really had no idea. Mike Israetel, like I say, I quite like him. A lot of people don't. I like his videos. I find them useful. He has a man, Scott, who does research for him and edits the videos. I believe he edits them as well. And he would have had to just type Gyroball into any search engine, and he'd have found out a lot. So it's a bit surprising that they didn't know about this. Anyway, let's start with your basic model. You have to prime it, and you have a hole here to insert. This is basically a red shoelace, and to insert it into, and if you lose that, then you need to use a different kind of piece of string, and then you pull it tight. This gets the initial wheel spinning fast enough, and then you're ready to go. You can fail to do it. I haven't used it for quite some time, and I tried it a minute ago and I was okay. There you go. It takes a bit of getting the hang of. I've had a friend who I gave one to, and years ago he came around and we had a drink, and he could not get it going. He spent ages at it. He was horrified the next day at the fact that he couldn't get it going. You can probably hear this. Now for plastic to make that kind of noise, it's spinning pretty fast. I don't think that's the friction, I think that's the movement of air. And you can go either way with them. And you can accidentally stop it running at all with your finger, and you can take some skin off if you're not careful doing that. Well, this is I haven't taken much skin off yet. I once done a little bit, had to make my thumb a little bit sore. This is what they call the auto starting one, really. You just got to roll it, and it's a little bit like a pullback car. It's actually harder to get going than the other one. It seems I accidentally cut that one off. Let's move on to this one. Now it's at the stage where it's not quite going, and you can feel once it starts to go, and you can probably hear that too. Once it's going, you can keep it very slow. You could do this for a long time if you want, and that's pretty easy, and that's going to be good for movement, and I think it's going to be good for wrist strength. Affects your arm a little bit. You can move it with your arm, you can isolate the wrist, or you can use the whole arm, and to get the high speeds you will use the whole arm. Now on this hand, so that's fairly round, that's mostly the wrist, clockwise and anti-clockwise. It's okay. Now one thing you want to do if you're going to switch hands, you'll fumble for a minute, so you want to get it going to a good speed. Now, perfect example for my own injury, I can do this perfectly well that way, but this way it's a real strain for me. So I have to concentrate hard, and the fact I managed to get a bit of speed there shows that I've got the hang of it a little bit, but it's hard. Whereas with my other hand, I could just do that, and you know, sometimes I will. I might be sitting at the computer using it for a bit and doing something one-handed and just doing this in the background. I don't do it for very long. Actually, I've not used it. I think I used it once about a month ago, just saw it sitting there by the computer and thought I'd pick it up. I don't have as much of a mobility problem as I used to with this, so I don't feel the need to dedicate time to it. But really, I should probably do this once a week for 5 minutes, maybe twice a week. It's a good implement. When I got them, the cheapest one was about £20, I think. It was a long time ago now. That had no display or anything. This one was about £39. Got a display in it when you can see the RPM, just so you can compete with yourself. It shows some other things as well. They're mostly useless. Doesn't use batteries, so you have to have what I believe are capacitors charged. So once you stop using it, the display will stop working. But it does hold your best time in memory for a number of days at least. You see, I just carried on doing this while I'm talking. It's pretty easy. It will light up more the faster you go. Changes the LEDs it uses depending on the sort you get. This one's probably about £50, and that was I wonder if you can just about read the display. I think it's 9,755. Now I remember when I first got one, I had a look online and I saw some guy, I think he was Chinese, using these, and he had one in each hand. I'm just swapping over here because it feels like you should. If you're exercising one part of your body, you ought to even it up a little bit. And I do that when I'm sitting at the computer if I use it. This Chinese guy, I'm pretty sure it was 1,009. Sorry, no. This is 9,000. So I'm pretty sure it was 19,000 he got. He spanned them both simultaneously, turned around, showed the display to the camera, and I'm pretty sure he had 19,000 on each. I think, if my memory is correct, that I've got, here's where you get your arm into it. I think I've got 12,000 in the past. But here's a mere 10,000. And that's really all there is to it. If you have a wrist injury, elbow injury, and maybe a shoulder injury, these are one of the best things to do. I'm sure by now somebody who knows Mike Israetel has said to him, "You made a mistake about this one, what are you doing?" They're really good. Good for musicians, good for martial artists, good for climbers, good for all kind of people. If you have it going quite fast, you're really working hard to cling on to it. And with that in mind, let's try to demonstrate the motion. It feels like having a weight in your hand that's pulling in different directions, one second to another. So if you're just trying to keep your hand still once it's going at quite a speed, then it takes some effort. It is some exercise. And that's a misfire. Let's try to not have too many of those. If I have another one, then I'll edit the video. And that shows you can get it right number of times, and then you can get it wrong. If I have trouble getting this one going again, then I'll use the other one. No problem that time. There's a certain point at which you can feel it's going well. It's not yet. It's the vibrations that give it away. Now I can feel it would be hard for it to not keep going. And now it's going quite well. When you're spinning it, you're going with it, and you can feel that you're going with it. I'll demonstrate that with the string in a moment. But when you stop, it's hard. I can't keep my hand perfectly still. And in particular, what I like to do when this was first damaged and recovering is get it going as fast as I can and hold it as tight as I can in this. And then I'm letting my hand go with it here. I could keep it more still than that. But I find especially here where something is damaged, there's some scar tissue preventing movement. It seems to help with that. You could actually benefit from a battery version that would keep going. So you could do this for a lot longer, but as it is, you just have to go back to the other hand and keep on doing it. As for getting it going, this is probably not what's happening inside it, but it feels like this. Let's double the string so you can see it properly. When you're rotating your hand, you can't just take it with the inner bit spinning and just start doing that. It won't work. I've seen people do that. It won't work at all. You need to wait until you can feel that the weight inside is moving to about here, and then you're spinning and pulling it down again. Pulling it down, moves up on its own, pulling it down. And you have to time that perfectly. If you don't, it's not going to work. And getting the hang of that in itself can be something that takes a little bit of timing, a little bit of coordination, and it's good for your hands. And last thing I want to do is just mention what it's really doing. And let's just look at a small weight plate, just happen to have that here. It's as though you're holding onto this and it's moving this way, and then around the circumference, moving the forces. You can tell I'm not a physicist, as always. And you're trying to keep it still, or even move against it, although then it will change direction and start to move in the direction you're moving your hand in now. And that's the benefit of it. So I'm holding this here, it's just going down, that's it. But if with that, it's pushing down and then the side all around, and you're fighting it. And that's the essence of it. And you can get it going very fast. There's centrifugal force involved, so eventually, I don't know if people have done studies, you have to know more than me to understand it really well, but I think you have quite a few pounds of pressure here. Here's 1.25 kilos, and that light weight, it's not a lot, but it's just handling this is something to exercise your hands, while handling it when it's mobile and moving in all kinds of directions is a lot better. And let's just finish off with one other thing that's related. I nearly forgot about this, and I just happened to look over on the shelf. This is called Power Spin. I bought it not long after the Powerballs. Used it 4 times perhaps. You can. It's just a tube that's made into a ring with a slightly weighted ball floating in it, and this is less useful, but it's not useless. You spin the ball around. If you are the sort of person who really has trouble encouraging themselves to exercise, I would say that you're far better shadow boxing or running on the spot and shadow boxing, but some people just don't want to do things like that. Well, this you can use in a number of different ways. You can spin it in a number of different ways. I think it probably cost £30 when I got it. I got another one since then. So there's 2 hanging around somewhere. In fact, if you want one, let me know, because I don't need them. They're not useless. They're not useful for me because I have a weight training schedule. I have a martial arts training schedule, and there's no 20 minutes available to mess around with one of these in. You can get a fair bit of speed going there. You can move them in different planes, and it's an exercise toy, but the Powerball is actually worth using and is something that could be important to recovery and development. This is just a toy, it's something the same people made, and I thought I'd mention it while on the subject. That's it then. Hopefully this is a short one. Really want to get on with some martial arts videos soon. In particular, early on I made parts 1 and 2 of a series, Punch Fundamentals, and I really like what I said in them, but they were too long. They were half hour or more, and I'd like to condense each of those into 10 minutes and then get on with the rest of it, and I think that's worth doing. They were fairly popular. People disagreed with some things. I like disagreement where people make a point. There was some of that, but actually the messages in which people made a point tended to agree with me, and the ones that disagreed with me tended to be idiots who can't express themselves very well. I'd like to do that soon. I'd like to focus on that. Maybe take a break from making sword reviews and things like that for a while, and just get on with some videos of the heavy bag, that kind of thing. And that's all while I work towards being able to make some weight training videos with PRs, which will take me a while at this rate. That's it then. I'm Mark. Thanks for watching. If you didn't, now you know what a Gyroball or a Powerball is. I doubt that Mike Israetel will watch this, but if he does, then he'll know too. And that's it. See you next time. Cheers.